Right there, guys. A really good way of looking at anxiety is to try and understand that a lot of it's caused because you're seeing something as a threat, and then your central nervous system is processing it as a threat, and then your brain is not analysing it properly to see that it's not a threat. And this is why a lot of the time you'll go into a situation that will cause you anxiety, and then the next time you go into the same situation, you'll just assume that you're going to be anxious because you were before, and you're not necessarily checking the threat to see whether or not there is actually anything dangerous about it, or looking at a couple of layers below that to see what's actually causing you to be worried. So the brain keeps memories of things that have happened in the past, not in order for you to have a memory of them, but in order for you to be aware that if that happens again, you didn't sort it out before, which is where the anxiety comes from. Because obviously if you'd sorted it out in the first place, then you wouldn't be anxious about it in the future, because you know you'd be able to deal with it. So that's why, say someone sort of comes up behind you and says boo, or you have a near miss in the car, and you almost have a crash. Once you've sort of turned around and you've recognised that the person was only making you jump, or the car incident wasn't a crash, generally those feelings tend to subside and you tend to get back to normal again. But when you've got sort of an irrational anxiety, it will stick around because your brain isn't checking out the situation and assessing it properly. So therefore your central nervous system is perceiving outside things as threats, and you're staying in a state of height alert which your body can't cope with, and this is what obviously over time is going to wear you down, because you're going to be stressed and a lot of things are going to get you down. And also it reinforces each time you see that thing as a threat again. It reinforces. So it's like sort of working with say you had somebody who had a fear of spiders. You couldn't just come in and chuck a spider on them and tell them, well, you're cured now. You'd have to sort of get a dead spider, put it in a jar, stick it on the other side of the room, and then maybe sort of ask if they're okay with that. Then get a live spider, stick it in a jar, then gradually get them holding a dead spider and then a live spider. And this is how you sort of overcome anxiety, or one way to overcome anxiety, should I say. But it's important to realise that it's about retraining your central nervous system. So it's not going to happen necessarily in one instant. It's going to be something that you have to do again and again and again. And you have to set yourself the steps that are going to be reasonable for you to take, so that you don't flood yourself with too much and then become scared or even more anxious about each situation. So it's basically retraining your central nervous system that a threat that you see is maybe not necessarily a threat, and treating. To give you an example, let's say you walked into a shop and you felt panicky, which I've spoken to people where this has happened, and they'll get panicky, and then they say that the next time they went into a shop they panicked before they went in there because they thought it was going to happen again, which of course brought it on again. So if you try this, you would then sort of stand outside the shop and look at what the threat is before you go in. So you're sort of engaging yourself in it, and you're sort of almost saying to yourself, look, it's cool. There's no threat in that shop. It's all right. It's not going to be a problem. Whereas if you don't engage that part of the brain, that sort of if you like, the judge that sort of looks that's above, sort of saying, look, no, check that situation out before you go into it. If you don't do that, the chances are you're going to bring a one-off situation, and you're going to make it happen again and again and again until it's a new pattern. So by trying to retrain yourself when it comes to anxiety, you've got to do the opposite of that. So you're sort of gradually building a different way of looking at the threat. All right, give that a go. See ya.